This is pretty much an FX3 in a smaller body with more features for almost half the price. And if you're just starting out, or if you're a professional looking for the best bang for buck camera, you should buy this camera, and here is why. Full frame, 4K 120, compact body, flippy screen, 15 plus stops of dynamic range, 10-bit FX3 sensor, amazing and low light, focus breathing compensation, the same AI autofocus from the A7R Mark V, best in class IBIS for $2,200. Why is no one talking about the Sony ZV-E1? There's a good chance you completely missed this camera, as Sony has marketed this as a vlogger camera. Yes, they've thrown in product showcase and cinematic mode, but these little gimmicks aren't things that I'm interested in. My name is Dan Dobie, I'm a filmmaker, and today we're gonna be talking about this camera from a filmmaker's perspective. Real quick, everything you see in this video was shot on the ZV-E1 by me, unless you see a gray frame around it. Image. Out of everything a camera does, the most important thing that it should do is produce a good image. And the image out of this camera is fantastic. Again, this is the same sensor as the FX3, and they just shot the creator on the FX3. So if you don't trust the look of this camera, go watch that movie, or at least go watch that trailer, because it looks really damn good. And yes, they shot ProRes RAW on an Atomos, but in my opinion, I really don't even like the look of ProRes RAW. I think it's noisy, but that's just my opinion. Fight me in the comments. Form factor. This is a small boy. And the reason I love the size of this camera is because you can bring this into pretty much anywhere. You can bring it into a museum, a restaurant, a party, and no one's really gonna bat an eye at you. The size to me is a great advantage, especially if you're shooting documentaries or shooting someplace you're not supposed to be. If you wanna build out this camera with a cage and V-mount and all that hoopla, sure, go for it. But me, I personally like a minimalist setup. I like being naked with the camera, not to be confused with me physically being naked. I mean the camera completely stripped down, even though there was that one time. It was great. Moving on. Autofocus. This has the same AI autofocus as the A7R Mark V, which is the absolute best autofocus on the market right now. Yes, the A7S Mark III and FX3 have great autofocus, but there is something about this AI autofocus that just works 99% of the time. Built-in mics. Now, I never use internal mics. However, testing these out, they are surprisingly really good. I'm always recording on an external device, but if you are in a pinch and you need something recorded, this is pretty damn good. Especially if you wanted to enhance the audio afterwards. You can go from something that sounds like this. Again, this is the camera's onboard microphone. I'm not using any external mics. This is how it sounds. Is it okay? But if you wanted to enhance it, this is what it would sound like after you enhanced it. Now I'm just rambling so you can hear it. Does it sound good? This is what you can do with the onboard mics if you wanted to enhance it. It's probably pretty good, right? Okay. Low light. This is a low light beast. It has dual native ISOs at 640 and 12,800. You're probably thinking, oh, 12,800, there's no way that's clean. I am telling you, you can shoot in the dark with this thing. Does this mean you don't need to bring lights to shoots anymore? No, that's not true. Don't be that guy. You want to light your things. You want to make it look nice. I'm just saying, if you have to shoot at this ISO at 12,800, you're going to be good. It's going to be clean. Image stabilization. It is really damn good. I give this a 9 out of 10. It's not as good as the A7R Mark V, which is, in my opinion, the best IBIS on the market. However, it has a dynamic stabilization mode that almost makes it feel like you're using a gimbal. The only trade-off here is that it has a heavy crop. 9 times out of 10, I am shooting with active stabilization turned on. This is the best of both worlds and comes with a very negligible crop. Slow motion. This one's gonna be quick. It's got 4K 120 and it's full frame. I'm moving on. What else do you want me to say here? There is no compromises. It's great. Focus breathing compensation. Sony's flagship A1 still does not have this feature yet, but this vlogger camera does. If you don't know what focus breathing is, sometimes on some lenses, when you rack focus, you will notice that the frame expands or contracts. With focus breathing compensation turned on, this will remove it completely, like magic. Let's talk about the bad stuff. Overheating. The one major issue with this camera is that people complain that it overheats on them. I've used this camera a bunch. I've used it in 100-degree plus weather. I've used it in the desert. I've done long interview takes with it, and it is actually hard to get this thing to overheat. Does it happen? Yes. Solution? Change the battery. Not a deal breaker. Micro HDMI. A lot of people hate this. It's a $10 cord on Amazon if you want to use an external monitor. Not a big deal. No external RAW recording. If Sony had a good way to shoot external RAW, I'd be a little upset with this, the fact that you can't do it on this camera. However, shooting ProRes RAW through an Atomos is kind of painful. This camera for me, feels like it'd be a little bit more of like a minimalist setup. And if you're shooting with Atmos, I feel like you're building stuff out. So that is just not the point of this camera. And even if it was and you could do it, I personally wouldn't shoot external RAW with this. ProRes RAW, not my friend, too noisy, I don't like it. All this being said, if you are looking for a cheap 10-bit full frame camera that gives you a great image, makes your life easy, and is fun to shoot with, this is the camera you've been looking for. All right, thank you so much for watching. Links for stuff below. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I will answer them all, I promise. Okay, till next time. See you later. That was supposed to be a mic drop. Didn't really work out.